Alachua County Victim Advocate Counselor Laura Kalt is a third-generation Floridian. She came to Gainesville in 1992 to attend the University of Florida. While in school, she began volunteering for the Alachua County Crisis Center hotline. In 1997, she was hired by the Alachua County Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center as a victim advocate counselor. Since then, she has worked as an advocate for agencies such as the St. Francis House, the Alachua Police Department, and is currently based at the Gainesville Police Department. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you.
You know, in our conversations recently, it became clear that you all had so many events coming up that we decided we had to get you on the show quickly and get the word out on these things. It is an amazing list of activities that you all have coming up. I had the pleasure of interviewing Loretta Golden, I think it's been 4 or 5, 6 years ago, and about the amazing work that you all do. But for the folks at home that perhaps didn't see that interview, could we start by just talking a little bit about victim services and what you all do?
Sure. So we work with crime victims, all different types of crimes. So our cases primarily come from the Gainesville Police Department, and we make contact every day with victims of violence, victims of robbery. We're talking about our kind of more serious crimes, domestic violence, sexual assault. And we contact the victims and find out how they're doing, find out what kind of services they need, and we're making them aware of their rights. As crime victims, the state of Florida gives them certain rights to be heard at certain points throughout the case. We can be present while they're being interviewed by law enforcement. We can be present when they're being interviewed with various people throughout the court process. So the great thing about having a victim advocate is that you will get information from the beginning of when you make a police report, and that person will stay with you and help provide new information or help you deal with what's going on as the case progresses all the way through the end. So in a situation where it goes to trial, we will attend that with the victim, help prepare them. We also have a counseling services. A big part of what we're doing is crisis counseling, maybe initially, and then counseling periodically throughout the case. Certainly sometimes people are not in need of that type of service, but a lot of our crime victims are going to need at some point to talk to someone about what they've been through. So that's a lot of what we do also.
How do you determine, or how is it determined whether or not you enter into a case?
It is pretty, well, really it is any crime where we have someone who's been hurt or someone who has been you know, our robberies, those types of cases, domestic violence, sexual assault. So it's, I guess, an agreement between the different agencies in our...
So is it an automatic if you have someone who's a victim of that kind of crime? Do you automatically get contacted and automatically show up for that?
Yes. Specifically sexual assault. We do have relationship with all law enforcement in our hospitals that if they have someone coming and reporting that crime, that they will call our victim advocate. We always have someone on call 24 hours a day.
Is that the Rape Crisis Center?
Right, so that's our Rape Crisis Center aspect of our services. So we have someone who will go to the hospital and be there throughout that whole process. We also have people that initiate contact with us on their own. Sometimes those are people who are not sure whether they want to report the crime. Whether it be sexual assault or domestic violence. A lot of times it's an intimate partner crime, so it's something that's happened to them by someone that they know and they're not quite sure what to do. They want to find out their options. So we can walk them through what is likely going to happen, and that type of call might turn into going with them to make the report and following through. But it might also just turn into some counseling or some regular, you know, face-to-face appointments, counseling appointments to just kind of help the person deal with what they're going through.
We will certainly be putting your contact information up on the screen.
Right.
But to be clear about that, if you haven't contacted the authorities, you can contact the Victim Services Office, and you are assured of confidentiality. You don't have to automatically report it if you get a call like that.
That is true. We have our 24-hour hotline, and someone can call, and if they're concerned, they can just even not give a name. They can remain anonymous. So we don't ask for identifying information on that hotline. We really let the person decide what their needs are and just try to give them the information and support they need at that point. When we're talking about minors, there are some laws that mandate that we report crimes that we know that minors, where a minor has been the victim of a crime. Mm-hmm. So, but again, a lot of times people call anonymously, so if we don't have identifying information, obviously we can't make any report. However, if someone comes into our office, or if we have knowledge of a minor having been abused or having been a victim of a crime, we're mandated to report that. But we do get phone calls even from teens who are in dating violence relationships who are just looking for some options, some information, maybe just someone to talk to. Mm-hmm. They don't give us their name, and it's an anonymous hotline.
So anywhere from anonymous to all the way through the criminal justice center.
Right.
You can help them every step of that way.
Right.
Now you mentioned, I didn't realize you also handled juveniles. Is there some overlap between you and guardian ad litem, or are those?
Well, you bring up a good question. Not just guardian ad litem, but the Child Advocacy Center. Mm-hmm. So we work closely with a lot of the different agencies in town. And when we talk about domestic violence victims, we have Peaceful Paths, a great resource and service provider for domestic violence victims. So there's a lot of, different resources. What we will do, of course, if another agency seems more appropriate, we're going to refer them over to the Child Advocacy Center or make sure guardian ad litem is involved. Guardian ad litem plays a very specific role within the court system, and they will be reporting to a judge of their findings and things like that we don't do. So there might be a guardian ad litem and a victim advocate involved in a case.
You mentioned you worked primarily with the City of Gainesville Police Department. Does the Alachua County Sheriff have their own victim advocacy program?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Yes, the Sheriff's Office has their own victim advocates. The only crime victim that the Sheriff's Office would refer to us would be an adult sexual assault or sexual battery victim. Because we're an accredited rape crisis center, that's just part of the protocol. Is it's going to be, I guess, the more appropriate referral. But otherwise, all of their homicide cases, domestic violence, all the other types of crimes that the Sheriff's Office is investigating, their advocates do the same work that we do, but with those types of crimes.
I know victim advocacy has been very important to Sheriff Darnell over her career.
Absolutely, and when she was at the Gainesville Police Department, she had that same feeling and felt that it was very important and was a big advocate for making sure we had victim services.
So you've got a big anniversary coming up.
We do, 35 years. We're
Wow.
one of the oldest victim service agencies in the state, so we're very proud of that. And I think it's, it kind of is, it's, I guess, well, let me say this. I know that when the state of Florida decided they wanted to have rape crisis centers be accredited, they came to us. They came to a couple of key victim service agencies around the state, mm-hmm. And we were one of them that they came to say, let us kind of use your agency as a model of what we feel is what we want to have out there and what is kind of the best practices in the field.
Does each county have a victim services operation, or is it mandated, or is it?
It's not mandated. It's a field that has really grown in the last 5-10 years, but we still have, for instance, there may be in some of our rural parts of the state where a victim services office within a sheriff's office might cover several different law enforcement areas. So it's not everywhere, but it's certainly grown.
Well, we're really fortunate to have it in Alachua County. So I've got a list of 8 events here, and they all look great. Why don't we start talking about some of those? Tell me about Lauren Book's Walk in My Shoes.
Right. She's phenomenal. She is a survivor of sexual abuse, very outspoken advocate for victims' rights and also for prevention, or sometimes we refer to prevention as risk reduction. I think certainly for sexual abuse and sexual assault, we're very conscientious that we don't ever want to be victim blaming, so we sometimes talk more about it as risk reduction. But she's a huge advocate, and every year for the last, this will be the 4th year, she has walked from Key West through the state of Florida all the way up through the Panhandle, and then she comes back and she ends in Tallahassee during an important time, April, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so it's a real important time for our field. And she lobbies for victims' rights and addresses issues that are in our field, things we need to be thinking about. And so she brings just a lot of, personal experience and advocacy to the issue. So we're really excited that she's coming through Gainesville. And
what will the involvement in Gainesville be? Do you meet her on her walk?
We do, okay. We do. And she wanted to walk 8 miles in Gainesville, and so we got her down to 6 miles. But the plan is April 11th, we'll meet up at our office at 9 a.m., so at the Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center, which is located inside Community Support Services, which is located right there inside the health department. So most people think of us out at the health department, so we're going to start out there.
Okay. And we'll flash the address on the screen.
Great.
Okay.
And we will walk about 3 miles to Squirrel Ridge Park, okay, which is on Williston Road, real close to 13th Street. It has a beautiful park there that's been dedicated to crime victims. Mm-hmm. So we'll have some shady spots where we can rest, and we'll have some refreshments, and Lauren will speak, and we have a local prosecutor, Assistant State Attorney Deborah Hunt, who's done phenomenal work, and last year was recognized with an award for her work in helping, basically, I think it's dealing with sexual assault and sexual abuse and exploitation mm-hmm. of women and children. So she's locally recognized as someone who's done really great work. She's going to come out and walk with us and then speak at the park also, and we get to hear Lauren. And I expect that to be very energetic. That's the kind of event where, people, it's very upbeat and energetic. So Lauren brings a lot of excitement. She has a huge tour van that's painted up, and it's a real eye catcher. And we walk along, and we block off the roads.
Nice.
And yeah.
Have you picked out your shoes for that event?
I'm a runner, so I happen to have some. But people should wear, because then the plan is to walk back to Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center. So that's where you get the 6 miles.
3 out, 3 back.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Tell me about the Survivors Art exhibit. That's right. Been a great event.
Yes. Rita Lawrence, one of our staff people, she's our program manager there at Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center. She's put together a phenomenal program again this year. So we have people who have been victims of sexual assault or sexual abuse, and certainly they have, experienced a whole, gamut of feelings and have journeyed through that recovery process. And so a lot of the art is just an expression of what they've been through. So we have that hanging up in our office, in our lobby. We have it displayed all month long in our lobby. But let's see, that's going to be on April 18th. We have the Survivors Art exhibit. So that's going to be that evening. We have some refreshments, but we'll have some people come who have made the art. Some of the artists are going to come and talk about their journey and talk about their recovery. And it's a very powerful event. It's very moving. So, and the public is invited. It's a wonderful, if you're into art or expressive poetry, sometimes people read poetry. Mm-hmm. It's a really beautiful night.
Yeah. I imagine that's a pretty powerful experience to hear from victims that are willing to discuss it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Last year we had a couple of our commissioners who attended, and were very moved. They even, got up at the end and spoke just about how inspiring it is to hear from someone who's been through something that a lot of people who haven't would think, oh goodness, I wouldn't be able to go on with life. But not only do they go on with life, but they have a new passion about life. And so that's always amazing to see.
Now, how do you gather the art? Is it open to any survivor? Or?
Yes, a lot of, I'm not quite sure who's contributing this year, but most of the time it's people who have been involved with our program in some way. But I think Rita may have closed out submissions at this point. I'm not sure if she's still taking new artwork, but if people are interested, they can certainly call our hotline and speak with Rita Lawrence about that.
Excellent. Tell me about the Victims Assistance Academy.
This is a new thing we're trying this year. We're hoping to have people from the community come out, people who, you know, maybe they have an interest in the criminal justice system, but certainly I think what we find is that when people become victims of crime, they're kind of thrown into this whole new world of legal terms and you know, criminal justice meetings and hearings and things, and potential need for things like restraining orders, and no idea of how to get one of those. So our goal is to kind of, you know, raise awareness about what services are out there, victim services, but certainly what happens when you make a police report. Most people aren't necessarily aware of what happens, you know, which ones a police report might finish with an investigation right there that day. It might continue for weeks. So we're going to give an overview of things like that, what happens when you make a police report, and then victims' rights statutes, so those laws that I talked about Florida has to guarantee that victims will be heard at key points along in the process. Talk about those. We'll talk about restraining orders. So we also call them protective injunction orders. So, and then some of the things that crime victims will be dealing with are medical bills, in ways that maybe they can apply for crime compensation or ask for restitution if there's a criminal case in the court system. And then we plan to have a panel from the different agencies. So we have Peaceful Paths involved, we have Alachua County Sheriff's Office, State Attorney's Office, Gainesville Police Department, and some of the other programs. And we'll be just kind of taking questions and hopefully having a good discussion.
Oh, it would be a good idea to videotape that and make it available.
Yes.
Hey, let's do that.
We're doing that, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's going to be neat too. So we're going to make that available.
Yeah, that'll be a great resource people can go to on demand.
Yes.
And find.
Through our county website.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Tell me about Victims' Rights Week, the candlelighting ceremony.
Yes, that has been, I've been a victim advocate for almost 16 years, and we've been doing it ever since I've been a victim advocate. So that's one of our longest standing events that we do every year. Victims' Rights Week takes place within April. And so we have a couple of events going on during Victims' Rights Week, but that's one of our, like I said, one of our traditional events that we've done. And we just have, again, kind of, you know, poignant discussion and opportunity for crime victims to speak about what they've been through. And while the Survivors Art exhibit is for sexual assault victims only, this event, the candlelighting ceremony, is for any crime victim. So people will be able to speak about what they've been through. We have that open mic portion, but we also are very excited. We have Becca Stevens, who is out of Nashville. She was recognized by President Obama as a champion of change for the work that she's done. She's helped women who are abused and women who have been involved in prostitution get off the streets and recover from their drug addiction, and with a program called Magdalene House, and then Thistle Farms, which is a really neat way to help the women find employment. It's an on-site, they make lotions and soaps and really beautiful products that they then sell to help support the program, but also the women who are in the program work and make these products.
And that's on April 25th, I believe?
No, I'm sorry, that one's the 23rd. And I think I might have given you the wrong date earlier. So, but that one is April 23rd, and the Citizens Academy is on the 25th.
Shoot, I thought I got the date right. And it's going to be at our new Freedom Center at Kanapaha Park.
Yes, which we've been to, and it's a great space. So.
Well, gosh, we've got so many things here. Tell me about the high school sexual assault awareness event.
Right. This is something we've been doing for the last 5 years. I believe this will be the 6th year that we're doing it. What we have going on is we go into the high schools during lunch. And I don't know if you remember back in high school during lunch, but what most high schoolers are doing is they're getting with their friends. They're sitting with their clique and their friends, and they're eating lunch and talking about whatever's going on in their life. And we come through with several victim advocates going through lunch during that time, and we pass out quizzes to take, which tests their knowledge on issues of dating violence and sexual violence.
Oh.
And they're told that if they take the quiz, complete it, and turn it back in by the end of the week, they're then entered to win some giveaway prizes. We have usually about 10 for each school. We have gift certificates to the movie theater, Starbucks gift cards, all kinds of things that they'd be interested in. So most of them are willing to take the quiz, you know.
Now, what kind of things does the quiz ask?
Well, a lot of it is dispelling myths. And first of all, one that I think of is that sexual abuse is most likely to be committed by a stranger. When we know that that's not true, it's most likely to be committed by someone that the victim knows and trusts and has some kind of relationship with. Mm-hmm. You know, dating violence, you know, there's a lot of behaviors that go on within a dating relationship. Well, maybe that's too strong. There are some behaviors that can go on in a dating relationship that, as a victim advocate, we see as signs of unhealthy signs. So it's kind of bringing those more into the light and talking about those. Some controlling, you know, if you are walking on eggshells, if you don't return that text right away, or those kinds of things. So we address some of those. We have an information sheet attached to the quiz so that everybody has the same opportunity to actually get the answers right. And it's just another avenue. You know, we do a lot of talking with teens in the high schools about dating violence and domestic violence in the home, sexual abuse, those kinds of things. We're talking about it a lot more with them. But this is just another way to bring it to, you know, to the table and have a discussion. What we like is, so when we hand out these quizzes, as you kind of hang out and listen to them, they're talking about it with their friends. They're saying, oh, well, no, you know, this a man can be sexually abused. You know, some of the things that maybe, you know, that we have on there, they're going to be talking about. So that's one of the neat things we see, too. They're talking about it now with their friends. They're having these discussions, and they're sharing this information. So,
you know, it seems like, at least when I was in school or when my kids were in school, there was really very little conversation about relationships,
right,
about what makes one healthy or not.
Right.
So it's so great that you're giving them some of that information. What about, I think the last one on our list is Take Back the Night.
Take Back the Night. That is another energetic walk. We probably won't do 6 miles, though, like Lauren's walk, but a couple of miles it might be. I don't know the exact route, but we're meeting up on the University of Florida campus. So the University Police Department Victim Services Office is kind of the lead on that, but it's something we've worked on with them, and it's a great time. It's posters and chanting, and you know, it's right at dusk, right as the sun's going down. We start up, and we end that. I think we are going to walk a little bit off campus too, but we end back on campus, and we have an open mic. I've been there where people who weren't even planning on opening up and speaking about what's happened to them do. They just feel that, you know what, why do I need to be silent about this? What do I need to be ashamed for? So it's speak out time and on the microphone. And we have some speakers, actually. Captain Lynn Bank with the Gainesville Police Department. She's the captain in the Criminal Investigations Division. She's going to be speaking, and I think we have some music planned also. But it's another.
And what's the date on that one?
That one is April 3rd in the evening.
You didn't know there would be a quiz here.
I know. I have to refer to my notes. There's so many events to keep up with.
So, how large is the operation at Victim Services? About how many staff folks do you have over there?
Well, we have a program director and supervisor, and then we have 8 advocates, and then we have a therapist. So some of us are based at the Gainesville Police Department. We actually have...
So you actually work out of the police department?
Right. Yep. I spend most of my week at the Gainesville Police Department. We have at the main office now. Gainesville Police Department is under construction. So
are you sitting outside, Laura?
I know. So we are in with the Detectives Bureau in an office space downtown. But it's a lot of times when I'm seeing people on a regular basis, I'll meet them out at the main office. It's just more of a counseling center feel, and you know, most people I meet them there. But I show up every day to the Gainesville Police Department. It's a great crew that I work with there. And then our main office, like I mentioned, which is within the health department, within the community support services part of that, is where the rest of our advocates are.
I know over the years the Alachua County Commission has been just so supportive of victim services. I know this is a very important program to them. Does all of the funding come from the commission? Do you all apply for grants also, or? Right,
that's a good question. Most of our advocates are funded by grants, outside grants.
Oh, is that right?
So there's several, and I didn't bring those notes with me, so I'm sorry, but there are several grants.
Please email me those. Well, we're just about out of time. I really appreciate you coming on. This is such a rich and varied group of events that you have coming up, and the service you provide is just incredible. For the purpose of complete disclosure, though, I think it is important to say that we've worked together before.
Yes, box office, Hippodrome.
In a previous life, we both worked at the Hippodrome Theater. That's right.
Well, and I was working for you in the Hippodrome when I took this job at Victim Services.
I remember.
Yes. I left there to come take this job. So
I was crushed that you left a future in box office work to
right.
go into your career.
The box office management position was open at the time, but I was, right. I loved working there. It was a great time. Yeah. So, but I knew, you know, this is what I really love to do. So I'm glad 16 years later that I came here.
Well, you're amazing at your job, and I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Laura.
Hey, how's it going? Meet my friend Lou. Lou only says something when it's very important. Right now, he's saying replace my battery. Now he's saying fire, get out of the house. Once this guy gets going, there's no shutting him up.
Smoke alarms, a sound you can live with.
I was tired of my life, and I started drinking to deal with it. So I talked to my best friend.
Everything was falling apart. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I talked to my girlfriend.
No matter what I did, I was never good enough. So I talked to my coach. And we went to this website.
These are examples of mental health issues.
There are people out there who care about you.
They can help. Just talk to them.
Who can you talk to?
To find out more, go to whatadifference.org and click on Learn.